Dino Dan from Cypress, California, and you're watching the Barbecue Central Show.
Start the game! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Hey, welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. This is the show that talks about all things that are important in the world of barbecue and grilling, originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio, Bomb City, USA, and the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evening's live fire, fun, and frivolity show. If you want to jump in tonight on the phones or on the emails, here's how you do that.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to greg@bbqcentralshow.com or on the Twitter and Instagrams at BBQ Central Show.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you can get the newsletter. Coming up in about 13 minutes from now, it is the first Tuesday of a brand new month and the last month of quarter number 1 of 2022. That's right, 2022 rapidly coming to a close. Without saying another word about it, that means we will be joined by the pitmaster of Killer Hogs competition team, co-creator of How to BBQ Right, Malcom Reed will join me. And of course, if you're a fan of this show, you know we are now in the second month of at least a 4-month stretch of doing a private roundtable. I have secured one of the most important barbecue people of all time in current times to give us his own insight on how to do the 4 big barbecue meats geared to the backyard. And then we might turn it all the way back around for a following 4 months and go competition style. We'll see about that. But the backyard stuff hit very popular last month. And this month, might I say this, it's the big one. Everybody wants to cook a better one. Brisket, me and Malcolm breaking it down over the course of his segment, so look forward to that. Then, after Malcom Reed, 35 past, we will be joined by the creator, owner, and overall purveyor of Kosmo's Q's, rubs, sauces, injections, marinades, and the like. Some call him Kosmo, but I call him Darian Kosmo Khosravi. Will be joining us on the show, so looking forward to catching up with Kosmo. And we will be going headlong, and it's all his fault. I would just like to say that at the outset. So as you get ready to hear the conversation that is going to be taking place between the two of us, had he not made his last podcast post about a week ago, I think it was last Thursday, this conversation wouldn't be, or the conversation that we're going to be having tonight wouldn't be taking place. We'd be talking about some other barbecue nonsense. But this is his fault. He opened the door, and now a professional and competent interviewer will be taking him to task on selling his company. If you didn't tune in, or if you didn't even know he had a podcast out right now, it's called Kosmo Unleashed. Kosmo Unfiltered. We'll talk all about that as well in the lead. But he talked about selling the company, and I'm really going to dig down into that. And we'll take it from there. That'll bring a close to the first hour, and then we'll move to the second hour. 14 past, because it is the first Tuesday of a new month in the second hour. And joining me from Mexico, Sam, the cooking guy. A lot of my guests do a lot of traveling. I don't do traveling. Sam will be playing, of course, his monthly game that has taken the world by storm. What does Sam like best? I'll tell you how to get in touch with that in a minute. And we'll also talk about his most recent video It was 4 or 5 different pressure cooker meals that get done very quickly. There was a mac and cheese recipe that looked like it got done in about 5 minutes. There was a barbecue rib recipe that was done in the pressure cooker that we'll take him to task on, at least for 2 things. One of them rhymes with liquid smoke. So lots to talk about with Sam. Also, if you are playing the game show tonight, there's a very good chance you could win a cast iron pan or a book or a knife set. Who knows? So stay tuned, and I'll tell you how to get involved with that. And then closing out the show tonight, a fellow podcaster covering the Great White North of barbecue, stationed in Alberta, Canada. If you are a fan of barbecue podcasts, you want to download his, if you haven't already, and subscribe. It's Ryan Sanderson, founder and host of the Eat More Barbecue podcast. Eat More Barbecue, BARBECUE.ca is his website. And that's how the show shakes out. First hour, Malcom Reed and Kosmo. Second hour, Sam the Cooking Guy and Ryan Sanderson. Don't forget, you can follow me socially, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Snapchat at BBQ Central Show. For live video feeds, you can go to Facebook and Twitch /BBQ Central Show. Also a live video feed on YouTube /RD Rempe, where there's quite an active chat roll as well. I can see all your Facebook and all of your YouTube chats on my other screen here, so go ahead and fire at will. If I don't react to them, don't worry about it. I am seeing all of them. And if you don't want to see me in any of those 3 live streaming video platforms, you just want to listen to me like a lot of people are doing here this evening, you can just run right over to Clubhouse, download the app, find the Barbecue Central Show, and take it in audibly, which is how I would encourage most of you to do it. That's the way the show was born. That's the way I like to consume the show after the fact. So think about that as we go forward. And by the way, Sam, the Cooking Guy, will be joining us through Clubhouse this evening because he didn't bring his really good mic to Mexico. Perhaps he forgot he was going to Mexico and that he also had an engagement planned with me, but he is doing it through Clubhouse tonight. So let's start here this evening. I have to issue a stern warning. I said stern. To my longest running embedded correspondent, Doug Scheiding of Rogue Cookers, and I have to do it right now. Doug, fast forward through the rest of this open and get to Malcom right now. If you're watching live, let me make a recommendation and tune out for the next 3 minutes. You don't need to hear of any what's about to transpire. I'm only thinking of you because the Centralites, well, they can be a fickle bunch, to say the least. So I'll wait 3 seconds. Make sure that you're either fast-forwarding or tuning out if you're watching live. But fair warning has been given because now we will have to go to the listener feedback from last week's show. And oh my, Peter in Georgia. Greg, Doug has had 7 raccoons in his house and he didn't take the cat door out? What the hell, Doug? Those things have rabies and other diseases. Close the door. Regards, Peter. Jake in Oklahoma writes, Greg, for years I have been wanting and waiting for proof that Texas produces stupid people. And here's the proof. Your guy, Doug. Doug, keep letting those raccoons in your home, you big dummy. Regards, Jake. And you know Oklahoma is just looking to take a shot at Texas whenever they can. Gary in South Carolina writing in, Greg, Doug is a rocket scientist or something like that, if I recall correctly, which would signify that he is of an elite intelligence. But he has had no less than 7 raccoons in his house, all coming in through the cat door. Did he get his rocket scientist degree from Sham University upstate? Gary. Doug, rocket science, a lock on that cat door, you dope. Love the show, Gary. Doug is taking some, I got to be honest. Matt in California, Greg, when you say Doug is smart, did you mean that Doug is actually really dumb? Because that's the only way I can get my head around the raccoon deal. Perhaps you should add "and dumbest" to his title of longest running embedded correspondent. In other words, longest running and dumbest embedded correspondent from Texas, Doug Scheiding. Regards, Matt. Chet in Pennsylvania adding in, Greg, did you say Doug has had 7 raccoons in his house? 3 in one night? Last week, you said Doug was one of the smartest people you know, but he's not smart enough to lock down the cat door so these filthy pests don't get into his house and bedroom, no less? If a raccoon got into my bedroom, my wife would leave me and burn the house down, Doug. What the hell? Regards, Chet. And finally, because I just cut it off, Tony in New York. Greg, longtime fan of the show, and as someone who has lived in New York City for years before moving out of the city, I have seen rats and had some show up in my apartment. I plugged many holes to keep them from coming back, mostly me being successful. The fact that your Texas guy has raccoons coming into his home and his bedroom is, in a word, troubling. Does he hate his wife? One raccoon for me, and I would close the cat door for good. And I might even get rid of the cats just to be sure. Love the show. Cheers, Tony. Wow. I mean, I don't like throwing gas on the fire here, but Doug is really taking a beating after talking about the fact that he has had no less than 7 raccoons in his house and bedroom. 3 in one night. So if you were just tuning in, wondering why everybody's piling on Doug, that's why. Doug knows how to harbor and perhaps potentially give safe harbor to the terrorists known as raccoons. But he's letting them in, basically. All right, that's enough piling on Doug. Enough of that. We'll get to more of that next week. Malcom Reed is in the green room ready to talk brisket. I will talk to you quickly about Yoder Smokers, designing and building all of their products right here in the States and building pride through craftsmanship and world-class customer service. That's the backbone of how they've built the company. This product translates into what can be a truly bespoke-style cooker that elevates gatherings with family and friends. Honored to have a trusted place in the backyards of America. From pellet-fired cookers to wood-fired offset pits and charcoal grills, consistent blue ribbon flavor has become synonymous with Yoder Smokers' name. Make no mistake, Yoder Smokers' flavor-driven design is unique to each style of pit, and their team has developed their cookers to perform time and time again while outlasting the competition for generations to come. It's this generational thought that's rooted in their handmade products and defines the integrity of the core values. American-made quality and endless flavor. Those are the benchmarks of Yoder Smokers. Visit yodersmokers.com to grab yours today. That's yodersmokers.com. And we are back with Malcom Reed right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the #1 most downloaded barbecue and grilling podcast anywhere. The Barbecue Central Show. Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, we are back. Doug Scheiding taking the beating like a man, saying Sham University is funny. Actually, Doug, it was Sham University Upstate, which I think makes it actually worse. This portion of the show being brought to you by The Barbecue Guru, creators of automatic pit temperature control technology, sellers of ceramic cookers with built-in power draft fans and accessories to make your barbecue and grilling life easier. Visit bbqguru.com for more information or call them 800-288-GURU. The Barbecue Guru continues to be a breakthrough in barbecue technology. Joining me now is the first Tuesday of a brand new month guest, the creator, co-creator of How to BBQ Right, and, of course, the pitmaster of Killer Hogs, barbecue competition cooking team, and my pal, Malcom Reed. Hey, Malcom.
What's happening, Greg? 3 months in already, man.
No doubt. Are you horrified that my longest running and, from what others would say, dumbest embedded correspondent from Texas, Doug Scheiding, has had no less than 7 raccoons in his house? By the way, in his bedroom, no less?
It sounds like he needs a dog or something, man, to run those things out. At least invest in some coon traps or something.
So, well, he does have raccoon traps, but he has these cats, which are more than 50-50 outside than inside. So he has one of those cat doors where they can just go out on their own, and the raccoons are coming in that way. I would say the first one, okay, I understand. And then the cat door gets closed down, perhaps cemented shut. Maybe you get rid of the cats just for good measure, like one of the listeners was saying. But, man, he's some kind of wildlife lover, I guess.
It must be, man. I don't know. I don't think I'd want some coons in the house.
You think Miss Southern Shell would like a raccoon in the house?
Yeah, funny story. She had one as a kid growing up. She had a pet raccoon.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, she's had one in the house before. I'd feed it like honey buns and Vienna sausages.
Wow.
She's got a whole story behind it.
Well, I can't. Someday we'll get her on and she can regale us with the story of the raccoon pet when she was growing up. So last month, Malcolm, we had you on. We're doing a 4-month run of backyard barbecue roundtables, if you will, with the 4 big meats. And we did a really good one on pork butt last month. And this month I figured we'd throw down the gauntlet as it's starting to get warmer out. And, of course, that bringing up thoughts of brisket for those that might have put away the grill or the barbecue pit for the winter, at least where it's colder up here. So let's talk brisket tonight, and let's get right after it. So much like last month when we were following you into the pork butt purveyor, and maybe this is a little different with brisket, I guess. When you're doing it for the backyard, are you calling our pal Kevin over at the butcher shop, or are you just going to a big box store and buying brisket that way? How do we start?
Yeah, most of the time I'm just looking at them in grocery stores or Sam's Club or Costco. That's where I've found. I'm not going to spend that big money every time I'm cooking a brisket. Sometimes you just want to, just cook a good eating brisket. That's what kind of figured we'd talk about today. But I'm in the grocery store feeling on them. That's the big thing for me when I'm shopping for brisket. I want to see if I can find one that's got a little age on it, because most of the time you don't know what the pack date is, but you don't want one that's stiff as a board, and you don't want one that's been sitting there forever. So it's all about feel on it. You want it to have some flexibility. You want it to look good in the package, not be loose or anything. But that's really what you want to go for. Look for a good even thick flat across the top, and if it's got a nice fat cap on it, sometimes you can see that in the package too.
What size are you looking for?
Typically the ones that I see most often are in that 12 to 14 pound range. It's rare to find those big 20 pounders in the grocery store or Sam's Club or somewhere. Most of them are, between 12, 14 pounds, something like that. That's ideal for me. I know they're going to cook at about the same time that I'm used to cooking them.
A lot of the big box stores that I go to traditionally won't have a whole pack of brisket. It's probably just going to be a flat and then maybe the beginnings of a point, depending on how the butcher got after it, depending on where they were being processed. So so obviously look for the biggest flat you can at that point. Maybe you can get up into 10 pounds if you're lucky, but are you sacrificing, if you have to, are you sacrificing thickness in the flat end to get a thicker point if you can do it? Or what are you taking into account when faced with that kind of a question?
But, it's like that where I am too. We don't have the greatest choice in brisket at our grocery stores. So some of them just sell flats, like Costco, where we are, just has flats. And really what I'm looking for is kind of evenness across the brisket. Even when I'm buying a whole brisket, I don't want the point just really, really big compared to the flat end. I want it to be pretty symmetrical going across. That way air can flow across it as it's cooking, and it'll cook at the same rate. If you get some of those flats that just tell off to where they're, not thick at all, half inch thick on one end and they're 2.5 inches thick on the back end by the point, it's not going to cook. It's not going to cook even. So you want to look for something that's kind of symmetrical, that just feels even going across that whole brisket.
So you get the brisket back home, get it out of the cryovac. What are you looking for as far as trimming process? And visually, what do you want to remove and get it ready to cook for home?
Well, I don't get real aggressive with it when I'm cooking at home. Usually I'm cooking it to feed folks, and we want to maximize every bit of it because I paid a lot for it. I mean, brisket now, I looked at them today. They're $9.99 a pound for choice grade brisket at Kroger. I mean, that's crazy high right now. So if you're paying that much for something, you don't want to throw a lot of it away. Now, the only thing that I like to really do is if it does, sometimes on the edges, it'll thin out. That's going to crumble off. It's going to dry up. It's not going to cook good. I'll knock that off. I'll kind of round the brisket out, and I want the air to kind of as it's getting smoked, you want that heat to transfer across that brisket. So it needs to lay kind of flat on the grate. So a lot of times if it's got a hump in it, I'll take that hump down. I'll take the silver skin off. I like some fat on my brisket. So I like to leave that 1/4 inch trim on the bottom. And I've cooked them fat up, fat down. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I like to leave some of that fat on it because I think it tastes great. It gives me a little insurance to keep from drying it out. But I'm not getting super aggressive at all.
Last month on the pork butt, you were not an injector. For briskets, are you an injector?
It comps, yes, but at cooking at home, I like to taste the beef. And I'm a simple guy, I'll use my salt and pepper, maybe, throw like the AP on it. It's got some garlic in there, and then hit it with just a little bit of rub for some color. But I really just wanted that beefy flavor, and salt and pepper is really all good brisket needs.
How far in advance are you going to rub that brisket?
I like to give brisket an hour or so. I don't let it sit overnight on it or anything like that. But if I know I'm going to cook a brisket, I'll take it out of the refrigerator, pat it dry, get some seasoning on the outside, and just kind of let it sit at room temperature for a little while. I may stick it back in the fridge while I go fire up the grill. And just let the salt start working on it some, but I don't want it to sit a whole, a long period of time with that seasoning on it, because I don't really want to cure it. I want it to, have the seasoning on the outside, create a good bark, and I want that beef flavor to shine through. But it's okay if you want to inject one. I wouldn't get crazy with the phosphates and different things like that for eating it at home, just because it's so rich, and don't agree with you always. But some beef broth in there, mix you up a little something. That's fine too if you want to shoot it up. I don't think it needs it to be good eating brisket.
If you're going to shoot it up, do you rub first and then inject, or do you inject and then add your rub second?
Usually I'll go ahead and season the bottom and then lay it the way I want it to, the way it's going to sit on the rack. I'll put it inside a pan to help me catch any of that, spillage from the injection. Then I'll inject it, and then I'll kind of paper towel off anything that's kind of seeped back out to where it's not just really, really wet on the outside. And then I'll come back and season the top. And that way, when I transfer it to the grill, it's not as messy. The seasoning stays on it. I found that if you inject it after you season it, sometimes that seasoning will seep out and it'll wash your seasoning off. So you kind of shot yourself in the foot there.
And I guess if you inject it first, you do have that natural moisture from the injection coming out. Maybe it's on the top side, so it's like that natural adherent when you go to lay that rub down, and away you go. So you're probably not using any other type of rub binder or anything like that.
Yeah, I've never really put mustard or anything like that on brisket. You really don't have to, especially, if you do inject, because it always ends up a little tacky anyway. You're not going to get all the moisture off of it. But I don't think you need it on brisket. I think the seasonings stick to it pretty well, and you let it, it develops as it smokes on the pit, and it makes a nice bark on it. I'm not going for a thick bark on brisket anyway. It's really just like a seasoning on the outside. So as long as you don't do anything to kind of wash off what you put there, it's going to stay put.
Anything else from a prep standpoint or pre-cook standpoint that you do that we haven't talked about?
No, the prep on brisket isn't. I mean, you see guys in comps trimming all the fat off and taking it down to nothing because you're trying to cook it for a box. But at home, you don't really want to use that mindset. You just want to get, a good uniform piece of meat that's going to lay good on the grate. And it's going to, let good airflow flow over it as it cooks. And you just want to get some seasons on it that you like. You could go any way you wanted with it, but salt and pepper is your friend on brisket. It's, it's hard to get one too salty. I'm not saying that, just put 5 pounds on it, but it's, it's hard to over season a brisket. It's a big piece of meat. It's going to cook for a long time. And so it can take some seasoning on the outside.
So I think the majority of us in the backyard feel pretty comfortable on the prep side, but this is where trepidation starts to come in. So we've done all the prep work to get going. Now we're going to have to pick a cooker. You're somebody that's got a multitude of cookers to choose from. You have Jolene, you have the Old Hickory pits, you have ceramic cookers, you have the pellet cookers of various makes and models. Do you have a favorite cooker to cook brisket on for the backyard?
The favorite's got to be that stick burner. It's just hard to beat that flavor where you stay with it and you put a piece of wood on it every 45 minutes to an hour. You're getting that awesome flavor. You're getting good, clean blue smoke going through it, and you're just letting it take its time. I mean, it's cooking at about 275, which produces really, really good brisket. That's, probably my favorite, but a close second is a no wrap brisket that I do on a pellet grill. And it's a totally different brisket because you're cooking it for a long time. I mean, I'll put one of those briskets on at 7:00 one evening, and it's not done until 7 a.m. and I never touch it. I just keep that pellet grill running about 220, 225, make sure it stays full of pellets overnight, but you don't do anything to it. And it gets really, really close to the same flavor profile with the light smoke and everything that you get in a pellet grill as that stick burner brisket, but it just takes a lot longer to do it. And I think that's the hang up with people cooking brisket is they don't give themselves enough time with whatever pit they're doing. Brisket is definitely one of those things you can't rush. You got to be patient to cook good brisket. And, a lot of people's brisket dries out because they're just pushing it. They're not letting it rest. All these things that, just trying to hurry it up, not being patient.
From a temperature standpoint, Malcolm, do you find that 275 is good for you because that's where the stick burner wants to live, or you've tried it lower and slower on a stick burner and 275 has been what yields the best end product for you?
Well, on the stick burner, mine just wants to run at 275. It don't like to be choked down. You have to fight it to get it to stay below. I've got two different makes. So I've got, of course, I got Jolene and Jambo. I've got an Outlaw, a couple different Outlaw smokers, and they all those like to run at 275. It's where they want to be. It's their sweet spot. And I found if I try to run them at 250, that I'm letting my fire get a little lower than I want. Smoke's getting a little bit dirtier, so it cleans up at 275. Same kind of goes for the drum smokers. My drum smoker likes 275 too. Now I can choke it down and make it run lower, but the food that comes off of it is better in that 275 range. Now I'll say on my old hickory pit, it likes to run at 250. That's just a sweet spot. When no matter where we put it, if we run it at 225, you run it at 275, it likes to dial in at 250. That's where it wants to run, and cooks really, really good brisket at that. It just moves a little more air. So, on a pit like that, where you're moving a lot of air, you do need to kind of spritz it a little bit. It could be just plain water or whatever, but it cooks a good brisket too.
During the process, obviously this stall everybody talks about will appear at some point. We all know what that is. But are you somebody that will always wrap a brisket? Well, I guess not all the time, because you had mentioned you had done a pellet cooker brisket where you don't do anything to it other than just give it time, and then you're done, 12 hours, 16 hours later, whatever it is. But if you're using a stick burner or some other type, or you're not doing that pellet cooker method, do you wrap? And if so, is it foil or is it butcher paper, or does it depend on what day?
That's really your big choice in brisket, is if you're going to wrap or you're going to not wrap, and then what are you going to use? I like it. I've used it all. And if I'm wanting to make like a Texas style brisket where it's going to, have a really nice bark to it, and I want that bark flavor, and I want to really taste those seasonings on the outside of it, get that good smoke flavor, I'm going to use butcher paper, because it's not going to allow moisture to collect around it. It doesn't braise as much as it does when you wrap it up with foil. I don't care how tight you wrap it with foil, it's still going to get that liquid accumulating in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to rinse some of your seasoning off. It's going to make a softer brisket. Now, is that brisket good? Heck yeah. Full wrap brisket, that's what we win comps with. It's still a really good brisket, but you're sacrificing that bark when you use aluminum foil. They both work excellent. There's not one that's better than the other. I just think if you like more of that Texas style barky seasoning on the outside brisket, go with paper. If you want to catch some of the au jus and you want it to be a little softer bark, go with the aluminum foil. They cook about the same time. There's not a big difference in the amount of time once you wrap one in foil versus wrap one in paper.
Wood smoke for flavor, what do you like?
I'm a pecan guy on brisket. I have, I've ordered some post oak and burned some of that. I usually don't add very much hickory or, harsher woods on my brisket. I like the milderness, and I don't usually, if I put any kind of fruit wood, it might be a piece of cherry just to help with that smoke ring color, because cherry wood really does make a redder look on it. It's real pretty, but just for eating, man, you can't go wrong with pecan on a brisket.
Internal temperature wise, this is always a delicate question, but are you shooting for an internal temperature to some degree, or is it only by probe tenderness?
Well, I use the internal temperature to start feeling for probe tenderness, if that makes sense. So
Yep.
I know that brisket's done somewhere between 200 degrees and 210 degrees. Now, I have found that it depends. There's a lot of things that contribute to the difference in that, whether it's the fat content of the brisket, where it's humidity outside, whether it's how fast that brisket cooked versus how a slow brisket cooked. All those things contribute. Like my low and slow brisket that I let go all night really low, it's never really going to get to 200 or right up much above 200 before it's done, just because it's taken so long. We've rendered out that fat, and we've really got it soft at a slower rate. Now, the 275 brisket, sometimes those briskets go to 210. I have taken some of those Wagyu ones to 218 before they really felt right to me. So what I do is, when I know that brisket's getting in the 190s, I want to make sure I've got it probed in a good spot. And I usually typically, like, if I'm wrapping a brisket, I'm going ahead and put my probe in it. If I'm, just got one, no smoke, I'm going to put that probe in towards the end of it. And when it starts getting to about 190, 195, I may start checking it every 30 minutes and feeling around on it. And you can kind of gauge it by feel when it's right. I mean, to me, a right feeling brisket is one that's super soft everywhere. You're not getting hard pockets where you're having to force that probe into it. You should be able to put that probe in with no resistance. I mean, I know everybody's heard it before. It's like putting a knife in warm butter. It just slides through. Well, that's really what it feels like. There's nothing there almost. And, there's a fine line in them before you'll dry them out. So it's really, it goes by feel, and a lot of it on briskets, luck sometimes. Just cook enough of them and you'll get it. And then once you think you've got it, you'll screw one up. Believe me, that's easy to do.
So I think that probably takes us to finishing the cook here. And maybe this is where the biggest mistake is made. So post-cook, we all know that you should be resting. Do people miss not resting it enough? Should it be 3 hours? Should it be 4 hours? Should it be 5 hours? And then are they also cutting it too hot? So much like sweating, where the water hits you and then evaporates off, can you cut a brisket when it's too hot, leading to a dry brisket?
That's definitely the case. And we learned that in comps a long time ago. We were wondering why we weren't scoring as well in brisket, because we were pushing our brisket right up to the window where we was taking it off the pit, slicing it, putting it in the box, and we're throwing the rest of it in a bag and taking it, throwing it in the cooler and taking it home and trying it 4 or 5 hours later. And it was phenomenal. It is way juicier than when we first cut it on the board, or the texture was different. That hold to me is key. It's as important as anything in cooking a brisket, is when you get it off the pit, letting it hang out and rest and just calm down. And I'm not saying you're letting it cool all the way off to room temperature. I mean, but it does need to drop to about 160 to slice it. That's my optimal temp internally. 2 hour rest is what I always say. I like to give mine a minimum. And most people, when you're cooking brisket, if you've had one on overnight, it's been cooking 12, 14 hours, whatever, and then you got to turn around and wrap it up a little bit, stick it in the cooler, and give it another 2 hours. That's hard for some people to do. And it's hard for me to do, to not want to try it. But you need to, you really do, because letting it calm down, and then when you unwrap it or you take it out of your foil or wrap or whatever it is, and you let it sit on the cutting board, and you still give it a few more minutes, like you said, it's going to make a juicier end product. And, a lot of these restaurants that serve really awesome brisket, that's the key to their brisket. Their brisket's come off, before they ever put ribs on that morning. It's been held all day. They're getting ready for their lunch service, and that brisket's been sitting in their warmers at 140 degrees, just hanging out, just getting happy in there. That's what makes it so good. And that's why it's so juicy when you lay it up on the cutting board and cut it, because it's set there and calm down.
Malcom, are you a sauce guy with brisket?
No, I'm not.
Never?
I do like now some good au jus, so if I've cooked a brisket in some foil and I've captured that au jus, I'll serve some of that with it, but I don't put barbecue sauce on brisket. I just like the meat. Now, if I'm gonna make it burn ends, I might mix some beef broth with a couple tablespoons of sauce or something like that, just to give it a little different flavor, maybe sweeten it up a little bit to put on the burn ends. But it doesn't go on the slice. That slice doesn't need anything if it's cooked right.
2 months down and 2 months of wonderful barbecue backyard knowledge being dealt out by, of course, the pitmaster of Killer Hogs competition team, co-creator of How to BBQ Right. It's Malcom Reed. Malcom, always appreciate the time, and we will hit ribs next month if you're ready.
Man, I'm ready. I got to go cook some brisket now, though.
All right, here we go. There he is. Malcom, always appreciate the time. And we will do ribs next month. So hopefully you had your pens and pencils out as Malcom was doling out the information at will, of course. Ribs next month. Hey, what do we love about ceramic cookers? We love that they're fuel efficient. We love that you can achieve low and slow temperatures for traditional barbecue meats. We love that you can get rip-roaring hot for high-temperature grilling like steaks and other thin cuts. But what's missing in the everyday lineup of ceramic cookers? The real ability to do true two-zone cooking. Two-zone cooking, very important to both professional and backyard cooks alike. It's the best way to manage a fire and cook with confidence. However, getting a two-zone fire with a round ceramic cooker, not very realistic. Why? Because it's round. Enter Primo Grills and their game-changing oval design. The shape gives you the ability to execute a two-zone setup that you desire. It also gives you the other ceramic grill benefits as well. When you break it down and think about it, there's more than 60 different ways to use this Primo cooker to your advantage, so you're only limited by your culinary imagination. They have a Primo grill rotisserie accessory. They have a half drip pan now. They have the rib rack. You like high-heat pizzas? Yeah, of course you do. They have the Primo grill pizza accessory that just came out a few months ago. Go to a dealer near you, only sold through dealers, primogrill.com, and then check out the cooker itself, see all the different sizes, and see all of the accessories that give you a true Primo grill experience. Here's the bottom line. Best ceramics in the biz? Yes. Patented technology? Yes. True two-zone cooking capabilities? I just told you that. Multiple sizes? Yes. And if you just have to have a round one, they have those. But take it from me. Oval cooker is the one you want to go with. Again, visit the website so you can find a dealer near you, primogrill.com. That's primogrill.com. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram as well. We'll see you over at primogrill.com. We are back with Kosmo from Kosmo's Q. Right after this, stick around. Be right back.
You're listening to the #1 most downloaded barbecue and grilling podcast anywhere. The Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
Got a pellet cooker? You need pellets. Why not buy from cookinpellets.com? Your #1 source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. Visit cookinpellets.com for more information or see what other products they have to make your food succulent and tasty. Again, that is cookinpellets.com. Chris Becker and the gang out there. My next guest creates some of the most popular barbecue rubs, sauces, marinades, and injections on the market today. He's also a barbecue competitor from time to time and a world champion steak cook. We race to the hotline. And welcome, Bren. Welcome back, our pal, Kosmo. Hey, Kosmo.
What are you doing, Greg? How are you, man?
I always want to say Darian because I feel like we should be a little bit more formal, and I don't want to be like everybody else and just say, hey, Kosmo, but I'm not going to say Kosmo. Just forget about it. All right. So right off the bat, because we have some stuff to talk about, I want to make sure that we get some business and promo out of the way. So if you're a fan of Kosmo's products, you want to save a couple bucks, go to the website right now, cosmosq.com, and as you're checking out, there's a code that's called podcast that you can use, and it'll save 10% off your order. So aside from that, are there any other new products or things that we should be made aware of that, or tickle us a little bit with a feather, if you might?
We got some new stuff coming out.
Like always, you got new stuff coming out? It's always something in the hopper, you think?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to say too much. I don't want to get in trouble from my team. Yeah, we got new stuff coming out. This year is we're gonna drop some new stuff, and it's gonna be pretty exciting.
When you look back over the years of Kosmo's Q being in existence, is there a year that stands out as like the year that you released the most new stuff?
Probably the year we dropped the barbecue glazes and the wing dust in the same. That product wise, that was the most.
All right, so Kosmo Unfiltered. Here we go. Now he's got, so, if you're a fan of Kosmo, you probably subscribe to his YouTube channel, and he was just a monster on YouTube forever and ever. And then you kind of like quit it, and then you kind of came back to it a little bit, and then all of a sudden here's this podcast that comes out. And it seems like, and I'm not going to be hypocritical here, but it seems like any podcast now worth its salt has some type of video component to it. And I saw Kosmo Unfiltered through my Google Podcast platform, which has no video on it. And I'm just listening to it. And I was like, well, let me go over to YouTube. And so here he is. He's got this huge studio. It's very professional looking. It's at that Kosmo's Q level that probably everybody has come to expect. But holding all that aside, who gives a shit about that? Why start a podcast? What's the deal with that?
Man, we've been asked that for years. Like, why don't you do a podcast? And I was like, I, I got so much more information in me, a story to tell, um, nuggets in life that I could pass on, lessons learned the hard way, so to speak. And I was like, I told my team, that was like, well, why don't we do a podcast? And I was like, okay, but what do you want it to be about? And they're like, well, barbecue. And I'm like, yeah, but I feel like everybody knows what I think just from YouTube, um, at least about barbecue. And I pitched them on the idea of what if it was just, it was just me unfiltered, and it was just me and what I wanted to talk about that day. And what do you think? And we sent it to the team, and then we actually sent it out to an outside organization and let them kick it around, so they came in and combed all of our stuff, and then they came back and they said, I think that'd be a wonderful idea. I say do it. And we did our market research, and so we got enough green lights. We said, hell yeah, let's do it. So that's what we did.
You're running, let's call it 20 minutes or less per episode. So from a ease of consumption standpoint, it's the standard bearer of time, just like it would be for a YouTube video. It seems like, 20 minutes or less, that seems to be the wheelhouse. So you're right there on the podcast. Was that a strategic plan as well? You wanted to keep it within that window so people would listen?
Yep. Yeah, we wanted it seems like the masses are right around that, 12 to 15, 17-minute mark. And that's when you're going to get the most clicks, at least for the content that we was going to put out. So we was like, hey, let's hit this mark. Now, anybody that's talked to me for any amount of time knows I can ramble on for hours and hours. But we wanted to make them quick, and it's just something you can consume, if you're going to the bathroom or mowing the yard, or, short drive to work, just something that you could click on, listen to it. Hopefully, a lot of fire in your britches, and get a little bit of knowledge and consume it quick. The attention span of humans is getting shorter and shorter by the day.
Yeah.
And, we just thought, well, we'll just get it out there and we'll see what happens.
Are you using some kind of a host that gives you verified statistic, or is IAB, compliant, things like this?
No, we don't have any of that shit.
Oh,
no.
So do you know what kind of traction you're getting? Like, you have some way to track your downloads at least, right? Or is it you just look at the YouTube?
We do track the downloads. We track all the metrics, but it's only been released now this is going on 2 months, and there's really just not enough data out there to, really build something. So our thing is, hey, let's sling it out there, and let's set on 6 months, and then from there we can learn to, tweak our data, hone in on certain things, and move from there. So right now we're just in a data collection phase. But it seems, when we first launched it, I think it ended up top. Boy, I'm gonna get in trouble for this. I was going to say top 10 of entrepreneurial based podcasts. So it's not even in the barbecue space at all.
Yeah,
it's in the entrepreneurial space. So it came out pretty hot, and then we were dropping dailies at that time. And then we brought it back to weekly, and then we're going to collect data and just, see, do we need to stay with weeklies, or do we need to up it to, twice a week, 4 times a week, 5 times a week, 7 times a week?
You're going to want to consult me on that, because I have a lot of experience on the whole posting and schedule committing and all that stuff. So we can talk off air about that, and we'll make sure that you're set up for success, no doubt. So I was so excited to see the episode that you released on the 22nd entitled, When Do I Sell the Company? And that's what I want to dig into this evening. And you know what? Let's let some real interviewer here ask the question that you were asked, but I'm going to do it better this time. So I think this episode is here's my speculation as I'm listening to it. Well, here's an episode put out by you as somebody who is looking, I think the episode's put out for any company looking to acquire a spice, rub, sauce injection, marinade company to give them a high-level look at what you're up to, in essence, a fairly innocuous reverse RFP. True or false?
I guess that's one way to think of it. I wouldn't.
There wasn't like
I
a
don't think I'd
backdoor
deny
agenda
that.
to that?
No, there really wasn't. There really wasn't. But now that I listen to it now that I'm on this side of it, I could totally see where somebody could come to that thought.
What year did
But
you start?
no, I get that question a lot. People go, "Hey man, when are you going to sell the company, man?" I'm like,
Yeah.
when somebody walks in here with $50 million.
Well,
They
we're
can
going to get
have
to
it.
that. Don't get ahead of ourselves
Okay.
here. So, when did Cosmos Q start again?
We incorporated in 2009.
All right, so we're 13 years in, or we're just celebrating our 13th year, going into 14th year. 2021, I mean 2020, 2021, for anybody that was outside of barbecue restaurant touring, probably had a really great year and a half to 2 years. So share what you want, but I'm going to ask anyway. Gross revenues for last year, 2021, where are we looking? I'm building to a bigger crescendo here, of course.
Okay. Obviously, I'll say we were north of 13.
13 million. All right. So you mentioned in the podcast that someone would have to come in and offer quote unquote crazy amount of money, or I believe you called it FU type money. So let's not mince words here. What's the number? There's a walk-off number for Kosmo right now. What's the number?
Right now, today?
Yes, right now. We're talking on the show.
50 million.
$50 million.
50 million.
In your estimation, and I'm sure the answer is no, so I don't know if you can extract personal feelings out of this question that I'm about to ask you. Is that unrealistic?
No.
Is that not enough?
Well, that, like I said, that would be the today number. As this thing, catches more speed, we get going a little further downhill, we may be looking at a 2 year, see what we can do in 2 years. So if they bought it today, obviously you would pay this much today, but then, all the seeds we had planted will come to fruition over the next year, 2 years. So yeah, I totally think, within 2 years, 100%. And honestly, what's that old saying? The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Next best time is today. This thing is not getting cheaper.
One of the interesting things that you guys talk about during this particular podcast, and I'm just a fan of business, so whenever anybody's talking about buying or selling anything, I want in on it. I want to find a way to get a piece of it, all this. I want to give my 2 cents. You talk about, and I'm paraphrasing, you would want to have the buyer have some kind of an alignment with your vision and how you want to see the company grow. So is it money that's really the main thing, or is it the buyer that's more important? Or in other words, would you take less money if it was the right person?
So that's a great question. And as a matter of fact, I did a podcast on this. It'll be coming out soon. You can get into a bad deal with a good person, and a bad person can make a bad deal better. And my point behind all that is I think a lot of times most people get wrapped up in the deal rather than the person making the deal maker. I want to know the deal maker. I want to know what you value. I've just heard too many horror stories about people selling a company, and then 36 seconds later they walk in there, throw everybody out the door, and it just goes south real quick. And I don't have that vision for this company. I have a vision for this company to one day have a gross revenue of 400 to 500 million.
Sure.
And actually in our space, that's not unheard of at all. There's companies out there doing it right now with, there's just companies out there doing it. I don't want to, talk about them but I want to get if we're going to do this, because I still want to hold some stake in the company at some level, some form of equity. And then if you're the person that I feel we share the same values in the same business sense, in the goals, wishes, hopes, and dreams, so to speak, that's who I want to partner with. Now, with that being said, if Mark Cuban came in here, Mark Cuban is just like he doesn't, how he does business is probably not, to him it's just, this is nothing. But I would want to get with somebody that could go, you know what, let's pump this thing to 400 million. Let's pump it to 500 million. Let's do this, and this. That's the person I want to do business with.
So are you, in the end, are you looking more for a partner / investor that might be able to bring some deep pockets to the Kosmos game, where you can stay invested in the company, but they're bringing an extra cash cow or 10 to the table to help execute whatever master plan you have to get you to that 400 or 500 million?
Yeah. So obviously there's every scenario could be different. There may be somebody come in and just say, no, we just want to buy it. You tell us what you're doing. And then, hey, in 6 months, we'll see you later. But the way we've structured our company is different than the way a lot of companies do it. Meaning we have a holding company, a marketing company, a PE company. So we have a lot of different levels. So you can buy the company, but then how do you want Kosmo with it? Do you want, all of the content we created? Do you need a spokesperson? Like, how do you want to use the name? You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah, because this is where I really get into the minutia of buying and selling stuff. If I'm coming to you, let's say Barbecue Central Show's had a great couple of years, and I have $50 million to burn, and I want to get into the sauce and rub game. And I call you on the phone. I said, Kosmo, I'm going to give you $50 million, walk-off shot. And you say, well, what's the future plan for you? Or what are you going to do with everybody else? And I say, it's $50 million, fuck or walk. And, I don't want to tell you what I want to do. I want the company. I'm giving you your money, and that's it. Like, to me, I say...
that's a different deal.
Yeah, so, like, to me, that's, and maybe I'm short-sighted, that's, like, all I ever really look at. I know somebody who's actively looking to sell a business, and this person can't possibly fathom a sale without him going with it. Like, he gets to remain and do everything that he wants to do, except he just gets a payday and then doesn't have to worry about what the back end of a website looks like or managing a team or anything like this. He can't begin to fathom that somebody might say, okay, well, here's the money, but, go pound salt. No offense. Are you the same, or it doesn't matter? Like, there is a buyout for you where everybody could potentially get executed and you get your money, and that's just too bad.
Well, I don't want to turn the company over to somebody that's just going to just come in here and absolutely crush it, because there is money out there like that. They just need it's just no difference than a regular company just needing an expense. They need an expense, a $50-100 million expense. That happens every day.
Yep.
But with us, the way we've structured the company, obviously with our IP, if you come in here and you say, hey man, I just want this whole thing, and I say, well, when you say whole thing, what are you talking about? IP? Because we have an IP company, and in our IP company, we have all of our websites, all of our content, all of our social media, like everything.
Yeah.
Obviously the Kosmo name, the Kosmo trademark, that's a trademark name.
Yep.
So do you want that? Because, that's a different price. Now, if you want that, now we can figure all this up, but it's kind of a la carte, if that makes sense.
So there isn't, ultimately though, we could come to a cumulative number for all of the different companies within, and that would be more than $50 million.
Right now,
that's 50 million right now.
That's the right now price.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. But obviously anybody, I mean, if you're wise, I would want to buy a company that I didn't have to have the avatar, you know what I mean, the person that created the company. Sweet Baby Ray's, he's not with Sweet Baby Ray's.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And they figured out a way to market it and move it along, and for hundreds of millions of dollars.
Would you want to stay?
I would want to stay
Yeah.
in some aspect. Now, what does my work week look like? I don't know, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours.
So why
8
stay?
hours, 10 hours, Honestly, because
it's your baby and you can't cut the cord.
No, I could cut the cord, but I think I just want to make sure that I handed it off correctly and it lived on.
I asked Jeremy Andrus this question beginning of February. At the end of 2022, is Kosmo going to be the CEO and president of Kosmo's Q Seasoning, Sauces, Rubs, Marinades, and Injections?
That's a good question too.
You're vacillating more than Jeremy Andrus did, I can tell you that. And he's worth many hundreds of millions of dollars.
Well, at some point you gotta. It's not enough to be on the right bus. You got to be in the right seat. And once you get past that $10 million mark, things change. I heard it said best, when you get past 10 million, it's time to bring in the suits. One of the greatest examples of that is the founder of Gymshark. Now they're
Oh, I know all about Gymshark. I got 3 daughters. You kidding?
$2 billion, $8 billion, whatever it is. But he moved into marketing, and I think my seat on the bus, I'm better in marketing. I really am. I have the vision, the long-term vision. I just need if we do hire a CEO, like that's the person I need, to come in and, dig through the spreadsheets and, keep the team, going so they can take care of the people who take care of the customers, so on and so forth. It's not out of this world for me to think about hiring a CEO.
All right. We'll leave it there.
Now, obviously, I'd still be director of the board, but,
Of course. No doubt. Chairman. Look, you can go to cosmosq.com and get all these great barbecue products that you know about. And then when you're getting ready to check out, you can save 10% by using the code podcast. And you can subscribe to Kosmo's new podcast, as we just used that word 2 seconds ago. Kosmo Unfiltered, all the major podcast platforms. It's fun to listen to, but the video is great too. Anything else, Kosmo, before we leave you this evening? And by the way, I really appreciate the time and the willingness to answer the questions. This is great.
No, thanks for having me. This is I hadn't had somebody put me on the spot quite like that for all to see. But hey, man, you know me. We've known each other for a long time.
Oh yes,
I'm an open book. So no, I appreciate you having me on here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on and giving us the insight and the honest answers, and most of all, continued success. And I appreciate the friendship that we've had. For it seems like 15 years now. Probably is 15 years or so. Aside from my wife, I think you're like the longest person I've ever known. Does that mean we're in love? I think we're in love. We're in a relationship, whether you want to admit it or not.
Did we just become best friends?
I think we did. Thank God. I knew some good would come out of this interview. So, Kosmo, always appreciate the time, pal. Thanks so much.
You bet. Have a wonderful evening, Greg.
We will. There he is. Kosmo from Kosmo's Q. Again, cosmosq.com, and use podcast to get 10% off your entire order. And look, maybe that was self-indulgent for me, but that was absolutely tremendous conversation. And the fact that he hung through those questions, because those can be tough, of course. But again, there was a floodgate that was opened when he made that podcast post. So, Sean, looking to apply for Kosmo's Q's CEO. Sean, send your resume to me. I'll look it over first. I'm the gatekeeper to pass it along. I'm like the Skeeter of Kosmo's Q CEO interview process. Let me talk to you quickly about Green Mountain Grills. Ooh. Hold on. There we go. Did I miss it? Missed it. Let me get rid of that. Okay. Now we're good. Clock got a little jacked up. That was well worth it. Green Mountain Grill, some of the best pellet cookers out there on the market today, of course. If you are looking for a cooker that has a really good amount of room, you want to get the peak. If you want the middle size, you want to get the ledge. If you want something that's really portable, of course, you want to get that Trek. Now, the Trek is great because you can, A, throw it in any vehicle that you own. You can plug it into the 12-volt outlet that you have in your car. You can also use battery clips if you want to power it that way. If you want to bring a car battery along with you, you can do that. Also, normal outlets through the converters and other boards that it comes with to power it. App integration, yes. Wi-Fi technology, yes. Only sold through dealers, much like Primo. So go to greenmountaingrill.com, find a dealer near you, and check out all of the really cool cookers that Green Mountain Grill has. And some of the best humans out there in the live fire industry today. Love Jason Baker and the whole family over there. So hope they're doing well. Again, greenmountaingrills.com, and we'll be back to wrap the first hour right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And we thank Kosmo from KosmosQ.com for joining us last segment, answering all the tough questions as only he can do. And as he said, he's an open. This segment brought to you by Fireboard. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring, or connect via Bluetooth if you have Alexa or the Google Assistant. You're in luck. Fireboard fully integrated with both. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. That's Fireboard 2, Fireboard 2 Drive, Fireboard 2 Pro, or the Fireboard Spark. All right, we are really late, so we wrap it up right here. Refresh libations. We are pointing to the second hour. You are listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show right here on the Barbecue Central Show. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing. We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to. Hit me!
Fine, how you doing?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the Charbono, dude!
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 54 wieners.
Now listen, Libertius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
And look like that. We are into the second hour. The Barbecue Central Show. We are covering the world of live fire in ways that nobody else does. People say they cover the world of live fire, but nobody's doing it like we are. And by we, I mean me. Still to come on this show this evening, Sam the Cooking Guy in about 10 minutes from now or less. And closing the show, the host of the Eat More Barbecue podcast, based in Alberta, Canada, Ryan Sanderson, will join me. Don't forget you can follow me socially at BBQ Central Show on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and the Snaps /BBQ Central Show on Facebook and Twitch /RD Rempe on YouTube and audibly on Clubhouse. If you want to play What Does Sam Like Best, and your name is something other than Lance Owens, no disrespect, Lance, because you won already, pile into that Clubhouse room and then raise your hand, and we'll have you up and ready to go to play as we lead off Sam's segment here in just a few minutes. You can also get an ad-free podcast feed experience through these two avenues, Patreon, and that website is patreon.com/BBQ Central Show, or you can apply for the ad-free experience right through Apple Podcasts if you listen that way. So just subscribe to the show through there. You'll see the little banner for an ad-free podcast feed experience and subscribe right there. Coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less this coming Friday, episode 218. We'll bring you all the way back to March 2016. And this is how I know that John Solberg does a great job with this Best Moments show. He pulls what we like to call the deep cuts. In fact, this was so deep, even John missed it the first time around. It was a pre-recorded show. In fact, let me ask you this question. Does anybody remember something called the Barbecue Roundup? Anybody? Raise your hand, instant chat, feedback. Does anybody remember something called the Barbecue Roundup? This was a pre-recorded show. I was hitting a few top barbecue news stories of the week outside of what I was doing for the show. I was looking at competitions, getting results. I was interviewing some of those folks, but very quick hitting, talking about food, festivals. If you've ever listened to the podcast Whiskey Cast, I've had Mark on the show, the host of Whiskey Cast on the show a couple different times. It was loosely based around the concept of that show and the way that I was doing it, but it was all pre-recorded. It was a podcast, if you will. I think I made it in about 5 or 6 episodes, and then it went away. Why? Because Meathead heard all about it, listened to it, loved it, and said, hey, before this thing really gets big, I want to buy the concept and you and have it be my exclusive pitcast for his paying membership over there on the AmazingRibs.com pay side. And that's how the whole thing got started on his website and how it ended on my website. So there you go. Little insight there, a little pulling back the curtain. By the way, little fun fact here, as the Barbecue Roundup transitioned over into what was known as the Pitcast over at AmazingRib.com. At AmazingRibs.com, the Pitcast went for about 200 episodes. So if you've never heard of the Barbecue Roundup and you never paid money to be on Meathead's Pit Member Club or whatever it's called, you never heard anything, you never saw the light of day on anything that either was the Barbecue Roundup or the Pitcast, that thing ran for almost 200 episodes, maybe a little over 200 episodes. So, saying that, if you stop to think about it, between the Barbecue Central show, which, by the way, I don't know if anybody's aware of this total or not, the Barbecue Central show is well over 1,000 episodes. Well over. So between the shows that the Barbecue Central show has done, and then, of course, we know that the best moments of the Barbecue Central show in 10 minutes or less this Friday will be releasing episode 218. And then you have that Pitcast at around 200 episodes. I think I might be involved in some form or fashion with 3 of the longest running barbecue-related podcasts ever in the history of barbecue-related podcasts. Of all time. This show, of course, we know is the longest running, most downloaded show. The Pitcast, which was an exclusive and still ran out. And then, of course, the best moments. I think Kevin from Kevin's Barbecue Joints is ahead of 2. I mean, he's not ahead of me, but of the Barbecue Central show, but he might be well ahead of those other 2. But after that, I don't know who has that many episodes in the can already that's still producing content. Somebody fell off the face of the earth around the middle of last year, but we're not going to mention that. Had that person still been producing content, they'd be up in the top 2 or 3. But I think it's me and Kevin's Barbecue Joints right now, being 1 and 2. If I'm mistaken, feel free to jump in and correct me. But outside of him, I might have 3 of the top 10 or 3 of the top 7 longest running barbecue-related podcasts. So congratulations to me. Hey, I got a message from my pal Jay over at the Grill Coach podcast. I like to make friends with some folks on the Live Fire podcast front. In fact, I'll be having my pal Ryan Sanderson here in about 20 minutes. But Jay over at the Grill Coach podcast was taking in last week's Best Moments show, with Ronnie Lotz. And he's texting me all of a sudden, hey, listening to Ronnie Lotz, and just wanted to tell you that on 2 different occasions while visiting the Windy City, on the strength of his interviews that I had heard while consuming the show, I've been to Cigars and Stripes, Ronnie Lott's establishment. Not once, but twice. So quickly, I'm texting him back, and I'm like, well, what did you think about it? How did you like it? Jay said, Ronnie is even more lively in person. I find that hard to be truthful, but Jay has no reason to lie. I just find it hard to believe because of how much of a personality he was on my show during the segment times when he could have been potentially reserved, and he was not. So to see him more lively in person makes me only want to get out there more. And Jay said that Jay stole his wing technique, smokes them, and then refrigerates them until somebody orders them, then throws them on the direct fire grill to reheat and finish before running them out to the customer. So Jay has bogarted Ronnie Lott's wing technique. So how about that? So we thank Jay from the Grill Coach podcast. Hope you're doing well, my friend. In many different fronts, hope you're doing well, but appreciate you reaching out. And he has been to Cigars and Stripes 2 more times than I have, although the last time I was in Chicago, I did try to get out to Cigars and Stripes, but Ronnie was not going to be there when I was going to be there, and there's no way I'm going all the way out. We were in Rose Lawn or whatever the hell it is over by Chicago O'Hare Airport. I wasn't going to ride the L in to not get Ronnie, and there's just no way that's happening. So there you have it. Thanks to Jay. Now let me look at this clubhouse. There's Sam. All right. He's in there. Hey, here's Chris Helmink. We'll invite him on stage. He's got his hand raised. And he'll be playing What Does Sam Like Best when we come back. After I tell you about David Leans and the Do Wellness program. Maybe you've heard that having a dad bod was cool or being fat was really cool. Well, it's not. Take it from a stud like me. There's nothing sexy about wearing your gluttony everywhere you go. Not to mention, being overweight increases all the risks and causes of mortality, including strokes and cancer, coronary artery disease, sleep apnea, hypertension, osteoarthritis, mental illness. Making the decision to change decades-old food habits can mean the difference between you attaining your health goals versus dealing with unknown health challenges that you and your family will have to face down the road. Luckily, thanks to my pal and friend of show, backyard barbecue enthusiast and men's health coach, David McDowell, you can now eat barbecue all year around and still lose the fat. With David, you've got assistance around the clock. He's just a text message, an iMessage, a WhatsApp message, or an email away. He's also available to FaceTime, Zoom, WhatsApp video chat whenever you need him, even on short notice. Now, where some coaches are charging $500 a month for some canned diet plan and 1 to 2 BS check-ins a month, partnering with David allows you access to a resource who is available effectively 24/7. Now, you can sign up for not $500, not $400, not $300, not $275, $200 a month. We're winning right now. You can get your health in order. You get your health goals in order for 2022. It's not too late. $200 a month to get access to this guy. Have you seen him? Abs for days. Deltoids peaking. He knows what it's all about. You should see this guy cook. Follow him on Earl's Cookout on Instagram. This guy's eating the food that we eat. However, he can help you not be so fat. Go to davidleans.com/BBQ to sign up right now and take advantage of somebody that can help you get over the edge. I mean, we're having a little fun here during the read. But if you know you need to get better, you just don't know how to do it or have the right tools, partner with David. Invest in yourself. $200 a month. Give me a break. davidleans.com/BBQ to sign up right now. That's davidleans.com/BBQ to sign up right now. And we'll be back with Sam the Cooking Guy right after this. Stick around. Be right back.
You're listening to the #1 most downloaded barbecue and grilling podcast anywhere. The Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
All right, welcome back. And this portion being brought to you by Smithfield.com. Head on over there right now for recipes as well as tips and tricks from the most well-known live fire cooks like Darren Worth and Jess Pryles and Childs Cridlin. Mouth-watering flavor, no artificial ingredients, Smithfield Fresh Pork. Quite simply, some of the finest pork money can buy, the trusted choice of top cooks for use at home and at competitions. That's Smithfield.com. My next guest is blowing it all up over YouTube with over 3 million subscribers that eagerly watch his cooking video 3 times per week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And he helps me open up a brand new month in the second hour each and every month over the last handful of years. It is my pal, not yours, Sam the Cooking Guy from Mexico. Hey, Sam.
Well, why can't I be there? Why can't I be there?
No. My pal. You know I'm very possessive, it's my pal.
I get it. I get it.
All right, now let me ask Chris real quick. Chris, make sure that your mic is muted until I tell you to unmute. And then you can play the game. Very good. Sam, you're joining us from Mexico. Are you on business or are you on pleasure?
Oh, it's pleasure. 1,000% pleasure.
And do you have a go-to spot in Mexico, or do you like to jump around a little bit?
I like to jump around. I love Mexico. I love the people. I love the food. I love the vibe. I love the weather. I love everything. We happen to be in Cancun because my sister-in-law, one of my sister-in-laws organized this, and we're here and happy, and it's now 10:15 your time, my time, but I had some problems tonight. I assumed this. Look, I got it all wrong. I got stuck on the timing and my local San Diego time. When you go away and stuff changes in your calendar, you get all messed up, and I got messed up. But anyway, we're here. I'm happy. You're there, and let's go, baby. Let's just go.
All right, and you sound great, by the way. So even though you don't have your mic, it's really not that much of a sound trade-off, so we really appreciate that.
Good, I'm happy about that.
Are you ready to play the game show sweeping the nation that's called What Does Sam Like Best?
I'm going to be a little embarrassed right now and tell you that I love this game.
Don't be embarrassed. This is why we do it.
I really do. I think I think we have a lot of fun.
Yes.
I really do.
We do.
Yeah.
And you can win great prizes. By the way, before we get to Chris and I tell him to unmute, what does Chris Helmink have a chance of winning this evening?
Well, let's put it this way. Chris can choose my most recent book, Recipes with Intentional Leftovers. My next book that will come out May 17th, Sam the Cooking Guy Between the Buns, a Sam the Cooking Guy Cast Iron Pan, or a Sam the Cooking Guy Nikiri Knife, 7-inch Nikiri Knife. It's all him. I'm here for Chris.
All right, Chris, unmute yourself and get up here real quick. Do you have, out of that myriad of potential prizes, do you have one that particularly appeals to you that we can play for this evening?
Well, I already have his previous cookbook.
All right.
I have pre-ordered his next cookbook.
Look at this guy. He's a fan.
Well, yeah, I'm kind of a super fan. A lot of pressure on me tonight.
Love him. Yeah.
What about the knife?
I actually, I think I'd have to go with the cast iron.
Attaboy.
All right.
Attaboy.
We love the
Good
cast
for
iron
him.
pan. No doubt.
By the way, the cast iron, we freaking love. We try and use it as much as possible. And there's a video coming up with the cast iron. There's tons of videos with it. It's all good. Look, especially for your audience, and I'm not pimping my shit right now. I'm just saying, cast iron in the live fire world is something everybody should have.
Yes.
I would say the first thing you should do, this is completely not me, you should go try and borrow, beg, steal your grandmother's or parents' cast iron. Because old school cast iron is the best cast iron. But if you can't get that, then my cast iron would be the next one that you should get.
Yeah, I have both. I have your cast iron pan. I also have one from my dad's parents, my grandparents. I think it's is it Wagner or Wagner? I mean, it's
Wagner.
Yeah,
I
Wagner.
have some Wagner myself.
Very nice. Chris, are you on like AirPods or anything? Are you just on the phone or speaker or what?
I'm on AirPods.
All right. Can you get off of AirPods and hold the phone up to you? I just want you to match Sam's volume a little bit if possible. You're a little weak. So
no God.
All right.
I'm sorry, Chris. I did not ask
Greg?
our boy to say that to you. No, I know what your name is.
All right.
Did not ask him to say that to you. I apologize for that.
I think Chris is a fan of the show to know enough that I am somebody that demands sound quality, and I am not going to make any more bones about it. Last year was a new flower of mine that I grew, and now I'm cultivating into a whole garden of audio flowers that we're going to be doing here. So, Chris, are you ready to play?
I am ready to play.
All right.
Okay, good.
What, Sam?
Nothing. Fucking go ahead.
All right, here we
go.
Welcome, everybody, to What Does Sam Like Best, where our contestant, Chris, will now have to answer the best 3 out of 5 in order for him to win Sam's 12-inch cast iron pan, which, by the way, also has a lid, which many cast iron pans do not come with a lid, so that's a value add that we certainly appreciate. But before we play the game, Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, like Sam, I am a Canadian.
Whoa!
We won't hold that against you.
Where are you from?
No.
Where's he from?
Kelowna, British Columbia.
No, I went to camp in Kelowna.
I know. We had a talk a couple of years ago.
Oh my
down in
God!
San Diego, and you sat with us for about 10 minutes.
Was that nice?
He doesn't remember you.
Fantastic. You were fantastic.
Shut up, Greg. He does remember me.
No, you don't remember him.
No, I don't. But I'm much older than him, and I smoked way too much weed.
Oh, we know all about that. All right, here we go. Let's get into the questions.
Fine.
Chris, it's a love fest. What can I tell you? Question number 1.
Already?
And I have a feeling, Sam, I don't know if you have the same gut feeling, but I think Chris might sweep this. He's a super fan right off the bat.
Well, let's find out. By the way, no special treatment for Chris.
That's right.
Because he's Canadian and lives in Kelowna, where I went to camp.
Of the two, does Sam prefer chicken or turkey?
I'm going to have to go with chicken.
Chicken, right? Final answer?
That is my final answer.
We lock it in. Sam, between the two, chicken or turkey, Chris says chicken. What say you?
I fucking love turkey. And I do. And every time I have it, I say, I never have it enough. But I'm going with chicken.
Nice.
All right. 1 down.
Not because he's Canadian. Because
no, you're allowed to like what you like.
We have chicken probably twice a week.
Yeah, same. I love chicken.
It's great.
Question number 2. Remember, you get this one right, Chris, and you are on what we call a winning streak. Of the two, does Sam prefer Mexican-inspired food or Asian-inspired food?
It's a really, really good question, by the way.
Yeah. This probably would have been even better for anybody else besides Chris.
By the way, I have to actually think about this.
Really?
Yeah, this is not a no-brainer for me.
All right. Chris, what do you think?
The first instinct is to go with Mexican because he's right there and
Yep.
he has a burrito every day.
He's in Mexico right now.
Yeah, it's got to be Mexico. It's got to be the burritos. I'm going with the burrito.
Final answer?
Final answer.
All right. Wow.
I love the thinking, and you know what? He's right in a sense because I cooked tonight. We've been here since Friday. We've gone out for dinner. Tonight I made my carne asada, which, by the way, if you listening and you haven't made it, you should make it. It's rather spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
I made Mexican rice tonight. I have tequila in my glass right now, and I absolutely have an affinity for Mexican food. San Diego, 20 minutes from where I live to downtown, to Tijuana. That being said, I grew up with a ton of Asian food. Sorry, Chris, I gotta go with Asian.
Look, I don't want to bring the hammer here, Sam, but if you said Mexican, I was going to buzz it and say wrong answer anyway, because any fan of yours or who has ever listened to you on this show has always heard the constant refrain of, if I can add a little Asian inspiration to my dish, you're going to do it. So we all knew that. All right, Chris, maybe you don't know Sam as much as you thought you did. I'm a better friend than you are, no doubt about it. And you're not on a winning streak.
There's still more questions, though.
Of course, that's right. So we go to question 3. This one, I'm with bated breath. Chris, between the two liquors, which does Sam like best? Cachaça or absinthe?
Okay. I have no idea what either of those are. So
Well,
I'll go with
all right.
number
Cachaça is a Brazilian rum, which is the main ingredient in something called a caipirinha, which is delicious. And absinthe is a key component in the oldest cocktail in the world called a Sazerac, which has black licorice components, and also outlawed for many years, thinking that it was some kind of a mind F if you drank it.
Well, I'm gonna have to go with the first one because I don't even know what that was called again.
Cachaça.
So the first one is Kashashi.
All right. Still with the mispronunciation, but that's all right. We'll let it slide. Sam, between cachaça and absinthe, which one do you like?
Well, let me just tell you this. Cachaça made into a caipirinha is delicious.
Delicious.
Cachaça by itself, I do not like. Absinthe, I think, is a bunch of fucking BS. I'm going with cachaça. He gets the point.
All right. Very good. Now we are coming to the end. We're at question number 4. You have 2 right. You have 1 wrong. So you could win it right here. However, if you piss this one away, we got question number 5 to win the cast iron. So here we go. Chris, which band does Sam like best? Foreigner or Toto? Both yacht rock favorites of mine, by the way.
Well, I'm gonna have to go with Foreigner because Foreigner 4 was one of the best albums out there, so it's got to be Foreigner.
All right, final answer on Foreigner. We'll lock him in. Sam, between the two, Foreigner or Toto, which one do you like best?
I only have this to say to Chris. I want to know what love is. I want you to show me.
Well, look at you. That's a Foreigner
One of the
reference.
greatest bands ever. And when the choir comes in on the backside of that song, I still, at my ripe age, get goosebumps.
All right. Well, Chris, you've done it. You have picked what Sam's like best. In fact, you've done it quicker than anybody else over these last handful of months. It's always gone to question number 5. But you've done it in 4, so you get the cast iron pan. Send me an email with your shipping address, and I will forward that to Sam, and he will send that pan out to you, Greg, at the BBQ Central Show. And thank you for playing, Chris.
Thank you.
Way to go, Chris. Congratulations, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
All right. So there
Nice
is
job.
Chris Helmink, and I'm sorry, Helmink, unless I'm saying his last name wrong, which would be completely ironic since I was busting his balls about how he wasn't saying anything right. But that's how I roll. All right, so we are going to get his info. We'll forward that over to you, Sam, and have you take care of it.
As you always do.
Yes, absolutely. Before we end this segment, let me ask you two quick questions. Last month you were on, you did a whole big run-up on those McDonald's hacks. Still a thing or no?
No, I think it went away really quickly.
Yeah. Once people realized they had to buy all that shit separately and construct themselves, it's like the American way is like either somebody do it for me or I'm out.
No, I don't think it's exactly like that, but I do think that people heard the hacks and thought, what a great idea that they're making them. And then they went there and they were like, oh, wait, I got to buy like 3 effing things to put the one together? That just was kind of screwed up in my mind. I don't know why they did that. And the prices were somehow adjusted, I guess. I don't really know. But it pissed me off, and I didn't like that the whole thing happened that way.
Yours look much better than what you'd get at McDonald's anyway, so if you missed that video, go over to the Cooking Guys YouTube channel and check those out. Now, what I wanted to talk to you about this evening, this game always takes more time than I really anticipate, but that's all right. Risotto. You made that, not this past video, but I think it was 2 videos ago, right at the end of last week, I think it was. This is something that I never think about making, and then I watch you make it, and I'm like, damn it. I go to a restaurant, and what's the one thing that would jump off a plate that I'm not thinking is going to grab me by the mouth? It's risotto when it's made well. How easy is it to make?
I think it's stupid easy. You know, the hardest part of making risotto, and I say risotto.
Yes, Gordon Ramsay.
Because I'm Canadian, because the Brits say it, because that's my inclination. The hardest part is the time it takes, which is about 20 minutes. It's not a big deal. It's a little, you invest a little time, a little love. You stand, you stir, you put rice in, and you add broth, and then
Is the mistake that people make when attempting it is they get impatient and or they don't give it enough time?
I think so. I mean, maybe. Look, a brisket takes what, 10, 12, 14 hours. A pork shoulder, a butt takes the same. I mean, you have to put some time into some of these things that we really love. And risotto is not complicated. It's just a little time consuming. And time consuming for risotto is about 20, 25 minutes. It's just not a big commitment. But the result at the end is really kind of fantastic. Look, it's one of those things, you can't buy it made.
No, like packet risotto or anything like that?
No, you can get it from a restaurant and bring it home and warm it up, but it's not like something you can get in a thing and put in the microwave or in the oven and make happen. It's just one of those things that if you like cooking, take the time to make this because it's really fantastic. You should do this.
Is
this something that's important?
Is there standard risotto and then you can add weird shit from there?
Yeah, I think you're probably right, Greg. The one I did was a mushroom one. I think threw a little truffle in at the end, but I think just the regular one, chicken broth and Parmesan, and that's probably it. And by itself, it's fucking delicious. I mean, look, what's the goal? How long are we on this planet? Do you want things that are okay? Or would you rather walk away from a meal or a dish and go, that was fucking delicious?
Yeah.
I think that's what we're going for. Look, I lost a brother-in-law a year ago. And I know what his view of the world in terms of food was. And he tried to live each day as deliciously as he could. And I try and live each day, yes, as deliciously as I can, but also fill my days the right way. And I don't want just rice. Yes, risotto is rice, but it's just a fully blown out, way delicious, creamy, amazing version. Make the best version of the food that you can. Really, that's the short version of what I'm trying to say.
And don't always eat the same damn thing if that's one thing that Sam and I can press out to all of you and that he mentions at the end of his videos as well. Sam, what should we be making for dinner tomorrow night?
Oh, God. Look, we just did a 5-part Instant Pot video.
Yep.
There was macaroni and cheese. There was jambalaya. There was ribs. Look, I think you should make something comfort food-ish right now. I think the jambalaya that we made is a really good thing. It's raw shrimp. It's the shredded cooked chicken. It's andouille sausage. It's chicken broth. It's rice, and it's diced green chilies. And it's Creole seasoning. That's it. It's, I don't know, that's 6 or 7 ingredients. You put them in a rice cooker, you turn it on, and about a half an hour later, it's crazy delicious. That's what I think you should make. So you can follow the Instant Pot version that's on my website and on the cookingguy.com YouTube channel, or you can make the rice cooker version that's on my website. But I think you should make it because it is stupidly delicious. And it's so simple to make that's the kind of thing that I like, that's simple, that's quick, that's you throw everything in and half an hour later you're like, oh my effing gee, we just made that? That's great. And let me just say to your fans, to this live fire community.
Yes.
That we will debut a video on March 30th.
Oh.
That will show you a brand new product in the world that we are here to talk about all the time. That will be an oh holy shit, what just happened kind of thing. We're going to be cooking on something that will be debuted that day. If you call me later, buddy, I'll tell you all about it.
I mean, you are rolling out a tease the likes I can't even begin to wrap my head around.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Let's put it this way. I can't really tell you. I have signed an NDA.
Really?
Absolutely.
Holy moly. And I mean, no offense. They came to you for this?
Offense taken, douche. How can I not take offense to that?
Well, I mean, if it's coming to the live fire community, then why wouldn't they be coming to me to say, hey, let's talk about this, let's ramp it up? Just because you got 4 million YouTube subscribers and I don't? I have 4.
I posted on my Instagram a couple weeks ago. I was walking down the street and a guy came up to me as I'm walking with my dogs, and he goes, Sam, the cooking guy? I go, yeah. He goes, I used to watch you when I had nothing to do. And I was like, okay, thanks, I guess. I don't know.
Glad you found something to do.
So thank you for that backhanded compliment, Greg, that they came to you and they came to me and not you, but...
Good job.
Jeez.
Well, I can't wait. I mean, 30 days from now, I'm going to have to call you immediately when I'm off air, or I'll call you tomorrow. So you can tell me all about it, and then I got to figure out how I'm going to keep my mouth shut for 28 days.
And I will say on the air, I'm not allowed to tell you.
Of course. I mean, you'll tell me no, but I have to ask. And that's
I
it.
will
Look,
tell you no.
Sam's in Cancun right now, and he's having the time of his life. He loves Mexico, the people, and the food, as he had talked about in the open. And luckily, Chris, who played along with us there at the top of the segment, has won a 12-inch cast iron pan that comes with a lid. Sam, always appreciate the time, appreciate your friendship, and the time you give to the show.
I
Enjoy
appreciate
your
friendship.
Cancun.
Thank you. We are March 30th. Sam the Cooking Guy on YouTube. Wait for it. It's coming.
Smash the subscribe button and ring the bell, as they say.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. There he is. Sam the Cooking Guy. Thanks, pal. That's Sam the Cooking Guy in Cancun, if you can believe it. So I appreciate the fact that he's taken time out of the vacation to do a segment here on the show. His monthly segment, I might add. We're a little long, but Ryan is in the green room ready to go, and we'll get to him here in just 1 second. I'll talk to you quickly about Big Papa Smokers, the one-stop online shop for all things barbecue and grilling, a curated selection of only the best outdoor cooking and grilling supplies will get you on the path to better barbecue results in no time. Known for the championship rubs and seasonings, of course, popular flavors like Sweet Money, Cattle Prod, Cash Cow, all proven winners on the competition circuit and in the backyard, offering 13 perfectly balanced flavors that transform ordinary meals into extraordinary. Of course, they also own Granny's barbecue sauce. If you're looking for a new go-to sauce that will please everybody, give Granny's barbecue sauce a try. And aside from the premium selection of rubs and sauces, they're selling some of the best cookers out there on the market. If you're looking for a versatile smoker that's easy to use, check out that Mac 2-star General Pellet Cooker. Big Papa Smokers, the exclusive Mac dealer, even offering special packages. Not a fan of pellet smokers? Fine. Take a look at that Old Hickory Ace BP. It's the only charcoal smoker that Big Papa trusts on his competition trailer. If you're not sure of what grill you need, call and ask questions. 877-828-0727. That's 877-828-0727. Or shop their website at bigpopsmokers.com. That's BIGPOPPA smokers.com. We are back with Ryan Sanderson from Eat More Barbecue Podcast. Right after this, stick around. Be right back.
You're listening to the #1 most downloaded barbecue and grilling podcast anywhere. The Barbecue Central Show. Celebrating over 10 years of prolific and unparalleled live fire barbecue and grilling talk. And yes, it's still being done from Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show.
And this portion being brought to you by Vortic Watches, a small batch custom watch manufacturing and vintage restoration company looking to preserve and enhance the legacy of manufacturing excellence in America. They take pocket watches, turn them into wrist watches. Each one is individual and unique. Check them out at vorticwatches.com. All right, coming out of the bullpen tonight, someone who does a bit of what I do, but does it up north. Indeed, the Great White North, to be specific. If you like shows that cover the live fire industry, then you want to check him out as well if you aren't subscribed already. Let's go ahead and race to the hotline and welcome in first-timer to the show and the host of the Eat More Barbecue Podcast, Ryan Sanderson, joining me. Hey, Ryan.
Greg Rampy, you sexy motherfucker. How you doing this evening?
I am absolutely spectacular. I apologize for going over, but your Canadian brethren was a little loose with a bowl of loudmouth soup, I would guess. And here is
Canadian
where
heavy
at.
on the back end this evening.
Yes,
You're
no
Canadian
doubt.
heavy on the back end.
Yeah, who knew it was going to be such a Canadian heavy show here in the second part? But certainly we love all of the Canadians that are taking part with the show, that are loving live fire. So we're happy to have you on the show here. So before we get into the show and the big milestone that you're getting ready to hit here shortly, let's get a quick background on you, where you're based out of, what you do for a living, and then we can build into the live fire stuff from there.
Absolutely. And first of all, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to come on the show and talk about what I'm doing. So truly appreciate that, Greg. I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Lived here since 1996. Grew up a couple of provinces over in Winnipeg prior to that. We were talking the other day, celebrated my 30-year anniversary in the transportation and logistics industry a couple weeks ago. So that's work for a trucking company, somewhat related to what you're doing, just a different end of it. So
that's right. Transportation is what I would refer to as one of the sexiest professions that you can do out there, of course.
Absolutely.
That's why we're in it. That's why we're in it.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of live fire background? In other words, is this something that you grew up around and just followed suit, or do you get into it later in life?
Later in life, for the most part. Certainly remember as a kid, family barbecues and that sort of thing, but never anything too heavy duty. But yeah, as I grew up and got married, grilling at home, got into it that way. And then about 10 years ago, my wife, for our anniversary, bought me Peace, Love, and Barbecue, the Mike and Amy Mills book.
Yep.
And that kind of set me off on this this little journey that I've been on since then. So,
where does the interest or where does the spark come from, pun intended, to get a barbecue podcast going? And when did you officially roll out?
Yeah, I guess the spark, 2014, I, with the company I'm working with, started heading down to Houston area about once a year for work. And while I was down there, I would have a weekend and I'd make some little barbecue road trips in and around Houston and Austin area. The first one was a drive out to Louis Mueller Barbecue in Taylor, which really set the hook for me. And while I was doing those trips and meeting all these neat people and eating all this amazing food, I wanted to a way to keep documented for myself, mostly to remember it. So I started a blog, which turned into social media accounts, and then I got the idea of how can I take what they're doing in the South and Texas and the Southern U.S. and help grow that up here in Alberta and Canada. So a website was formed, which then was a fan of barbecue podcasts, including your show. And in 2018, I started the Eat More Barbecue podcast with the primary goal of helping grow that barbecue, that Southern barbecue culture here in Alberta and Canada on a whole.
In 2018, as you look back versus where we're sitting here, beginning of the end of quarter number one here in 2022, what was the scene of barbecue like in Canada, and how has that changed, or has it changed in 4 years?
It has changed. It's grown for sure. COVID kind of put a dent into things on the restaurant side of it for sure. But as you're aware, the home cooking, backyard cooking, that's exploded. So certainly a big community here in Canada for that. Really an amazing dynamic group of people, and nice to see now as some of the mandates and restrictions are being lifted, the restaurants are kind of able to start getting back, get their feet back under them. Those that survived, at least, happy to say for the most part that at least the ones here in Alberta, not too many long-term casualties to report on that end. So,
is there a Canadian style of barbecue? When you look at Southern style barbecue here in the States, obviously you have the Meccas, the Carolinas, Texas, Memphis, Kansas City. There's other states that want to claim, like, the city of Cleveland claims they have a Cleveland style of barbecue, thanks to Iron Chef Michael Simon. I think California is looking to edge their way into a California style barbecue, more with the tri-tip than anything else. Does Canada have any type of signature barbecue, or is it just Southern style barbecue and they've taken it up there?
I would say primarily it's Southern style barbecue that we've adopted, and folks every restaurant will put their own little spin on things, but largely it's much the same of what you'll get if you're going into the South there.
When you start the Eat More Barbecue podcast, as you said, you're looking to cover Canada in its essence and promote Southern barbecue and everything that's going on up there. How were those first couple interviews, and how did the show sound back then, and how does it sound now?
Anxious, I would say, would probably be the best word for the first few, but certainly as I got talking to people and got more comfortable with it, the first, I couldn't even put a number, the first number of episodes, I was sitting down live recording with people. And the recorder I had did a pretty decent job of that. As time went on and not always able to meet face-to-face with folks, started doing recordings over Skype and now Zoom. And that's actually when you first reached out to me, and we've talked about that. The sound quality on those first ones wasn't the best, but with your suggestion and some recommendations, upgraded my equipment so I can produce a better sounding podcast when I am doing it over the computer. So,
you prefer to be in front of somebody to do the interviews, or
absolutely, if I can be, absolutely, yeah.
As a positive of the Zoom, though, giving you access to, Canada's obviously a huge country. It sits right on top of the United States, so we have some concept of how big it is. But then, of course, it also goes, north like forever. So it's probably not easy for you to jump in the car and, race out to Whistler to do an interview with, some barbecue joint out there and then race all the way back over to, Toronto or, wherever to do another one.
No.
So I assume Zoom has helped you, broaden your guest reach.
Oh, 100%. It's I've had you on the show. Had the honor of having Wayne Mueller from Louis Mueller Barbecue on, and as far away as Ben Arnott from Australia has been on the show. So absolutely, Zoom. As much as I'd love to be able to just share the stories of the folks here in Alberta and Canada, it's geographically limited that way. So doing it over the computer has certainly given me a much broader reach.
When is episode 200 releasing?
April 27th is the scheduled date for episode 200. So that's just a little over a month away here.
Yeah.
And,
This is a pinnacle, in my mind, this is a pinnacle number of podcasts. You'll see people pretty excited, invested, wanting to push out. They get to 100 episodes, and that's a big deal. And that also seems to be a point where podcasts will fizzle out. Maybe they started really aggressive in their release schedule, and then they started to back off, and they got to 100, and boom, there you go. They're done. They can say, plant the flag at 100, call it a day, and there you go. Well, adding on another 100, if you're doing one a week, there's 52 weeks in a year. That's going to take you another 2 years to get. Rough math, unless you're doing more than that. So that's quite a time commitment to get to 200 episodes. What do you think the biggest changes in the Eat More Barbecue podcast have been over those first 200 or what will be 200 episodes?
Certainly as of late, and being able to use Zoom, as we talked about, getting outside of the borders of Alberta and Canada. I've been doing a lot more with folks further away in Canada and in the U.S. So I would say that's the biggest. Initially, it was a very Alberta barbecue centered podcast. If you look back, the first probably 20 to 30, 40 episodes were primarily Alberta and Canada for sure. So I would say just that geographic reach would be the biggest change.
As you're taking the pulse of your barbecue community, what's been the biggest change over the last couple of years, or the biggest trend that you guys see?
Just the growth of it, the quality of the restaurants. Going back kind of when I first started going to some of these barbecue restaurants around here, they were okay. But as it's grown here, those restaurants have really upped their quality, and to the point where you've got some places here where I would put them on par with some of the Texas places I've been able to visit, which is awesome. It's just the dedication to the craft of the cooking. The competition scene here in Alberta and Canada continues to grow. I jumped into the competition circuit a bit last year, and looking forward to it. Joined up with a couple of guys here, and we just renamed our team. Moose Knuckle Barbecue is ready to rock and roll for 2022 here in Alberta. We've got registered for a couple already and ready to go. So that continues to grow. I think we'll have 4 or 5 competitions in Alberta this year. A couple others in Saskatchewan and British Columbia on to the east or west of us, within driving range distance for folks. So more and more opportunities for people to get out and compete in KCBS competitions.
Brian Sanderson joining us here on the show. His website, by the way, Eat More Barbecue. That's spelled out BARBECUE. Eatmorebarbecue.ca, because it's Canada, of course. 2 hard-hitting questions before I let you go this evening. Here's number 1. When I think of Canadian barbecue names, Ted Reeder is the first one that comes to mind.
Absolutely.
Danielle Bennett, probably 1B. DVQ, of course. And then a guy that I know very well, Robert Rainford. Maybe you've heard of this name, Rockin' Ronnie Shoechuck, who was a old school podcaster back in the day. I don't even know what he's up to, but Rockin' Ronnie comes to mind.
He had him on the show last year.
Where do you stand on Maddie and Kiki?
I'm a fan. They've got their
right.
I've had them on. Yeah, had them on the show. They're super people. Not different style of getting their message across than what I have. They're a little more upbeat and
dancey.
I tend to be fancy. I'm a little more laid back, I guess you could say. But no, super people and doing a great job and spreading the word and getting their building their brand. Right, they figured out a way to do it, and they're doing a great job of it. So,
who do you think is the most influential Canadian live fire personality? Last question of sport.
I'd say it would probably be those first two you mentioned. Ted Reader and To BBQ would be right up there.
Ryan, you're wrong. Sorry, you're wrong.
Sam?
Of course, we all know, and he doesn't know this, that the most influential live fire Canadian is Sam the Cookie. 4 million YouTube subscribers, 15 regional Emmys. He told Hoda Kotb and Kathy Lee Gifford to shut the fuck up when he was on the Today Show. He didn't say it like that per se, but that's what he meant. And the list goes on. He's always cooking on a grill or a flat top or a smoker. Again, I don't think he realizes the live fire pull that he has. I'm not just saying that because he's my best friend in the world and I would cry if he ever passed away. But maybe I am saying that because of that. But when I look at it as a whole, he's probably the most influential. Now, Canadian living in Canada? Ooh, boy.
Yeah.
Now I got to pick.
That probably, I think Diva Q, she spends a chunk of her time down in Florida, right?
Yeah,
so.
she's in Florida, so she doesn't count anymore. So I think then we probably come to a confluence of agreement that Ted Reader is the man.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Ted Reader.
Yeah, he's a character.
Have you met him in person?
No, just I had him on the podcast and actually caught him on another. There's a couple of guys, one out in Ontario and one in BC, that do a weekly live Instagram, and he was their guest last week. And
I saw that.
He went off.
Well, Ted is a beauty, and he's always been a great friend of the show and a great guest of the show over the 14 years that we've done it. So we're talking with Ryan Sanderson. You can find him over at the Eat More Barbecue podcast, available on all the podcast platforms, of course. Ryan, really appreciate the time this evening, learning a little bit about you and what the podcast looks to cover, and continued success, my friend. We'll look forward to episode 200 coming at the end of next month.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate it, folks. Have a great evening.
You got it. There he is, Ryan Sanderson, the host of the Eat More Barbecue podcast, which is great. If you like live fire stuff, covering a little bit of a different area, subscribe to Ryan. You'll love it. All right, let's go ahead and break quick. We'll come wrap up the show right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Greg Rempe.
All right, we are back. We thank Ryan Sanderson from the Eat More Barbecue podcast for joining us last segment. Let's go ahead and make tracks out of here all the way back in the first hour. Malcom Reed from How to BBQ Right, doing our personal barbecue roundtable this month, covering brisket. Last month it was pork butt. Next month it will be ribs. So look forward to that. After Malcom, we were joined by Kosmo from Kosmo's Q. We had a great conversation about what it would take for him to sell his company. And I'm on the fence if he's going to be there as still owner, CEO, creator of Kosmo by the end of the year or not. He gave me a moment to pause and rethink. Great conversation there. Second hour, Sam the Cooking Guy joined us. We played the ever-famous What Does Sam Like Best game, and Chris won a cast iron pan. And closing it out this evening was Ryan from the Eat More Barbecue podcast. So we appreciate all the guests here. As always, big show planned for you next week. Meathead will be back in after missing last month. That was my doing because of the Jeremy Andrus interview. Also, Robert Boss will be in amongst a cast of other characters. So How Do I Always Leave You? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, This is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.
Hey, what's up? This is JM, host of the Celebrity Grill podcast on iTunes, and you're listening to the Barbecue Central Radio Network. All barbecue and grilling, all the time.